I'm flying back from Dubai to London on not just an ordinary flight, but on a 7-hour journey that I've decided to turn into the highest return on investment flight I have ever taken. The aim is to land on the other side, having done a deep dive analysis on my finances for the year. I also decided to give vlogging a try, only to realize very quickly that this is not my calling. Luckily, the primary focus of this channel is finance, and that's what you're here for. I'm going to meet my partner at the airport. Fortunately, I managed to snag a last-minute free upgrade through points. Unfortunately, because we booked separately, his seat didn't get the same luxury. Before you ask if I ditched him on purpose, it was due to the auto upgrade features on the Emirates app. Once settled into the business lounge, I need to download a year's worth of financial data ready for analysis. I log into the online banking system for each of my bank providers, downloading the last 12 months worth of transactions from each bank account, either through a CSV file or a PDF file, depending on the technological capabilities of the bank. In previous years, I have automated this path to review my finances. This year, I'm going for the more manual but mindful route. I send all the PDF files onto my iPad, which I'll be using to do a cross-checking later on. I treat myself to some readily peeled light cheese, something that would have been the ultimate luxury growing up, and an ice cream to go. I get onto the flight and take a few more pointless videos and then get straight into it. First step, get all my CSV files into the same format. My first column is all about dates, the day each transaction went down. This is written in UK format, of course, date, month, and then year. Second column is the reference / the description. I don't know what half of these means, so I'm going to have to do some digging in section 2. The third and the fourth column is the paid in and paid out. These can either be combined into a single column or split into separate ones. I keep them separate so it's easy to tally up at the bottom if I want to. I also make a fifth column and name it as category. We will fill that out in the next stage. Key tip here: do not overcomplicate it. That is where most people trip up. After realizing I'm not yet done with this tedious task and that I've still got to include the remaining transactions from the PDF statements, I order a glass of champagne to drown my sorrows. I go through each statement, page by page, and type out the information into the format I have in my main Excel spreadsheet, crossing them off so that I'm not tempted to enter my income in twice, as nice as that would be. Now I've got all the information I need from the last 12 months in one place, in one format. The reason why the annual review is so effective is because it includes all the one-off costs that you would easily forget on a monthly budget. Things like a roof repair or a one-off present that you buy. There's no hiding when you do the annual review. Everything is trackable and everything is out in the open. So here's what I do next. I dive into the list of expenses and give each cost a good hard look. As I'm doing this, I'd rename each of them in the reference column using my own words, something that makes sense to me so I know exactly what that purchase is for. By doing this, you'll find a lot of things that you didn't even know you were spending on. You'll see that you're auto-enrolling for subscriptions and renewals that you don't even use anymore, and you'll find a lot of errors pretty quickly. For instance, you return something in one month, but you don't see the return in any subsequent months. Whenever things like this come up, I will just highlight it so that I can action it at the third stage of this annual review. Then in the column next to it, I'd label each spending as either fundamental, fun, or future. Fundamental costs are like your loyal friends that stick by you through and through. These are your basic needs that you need to pay for to survive. Things like your food, groceries, transportation, and bills. Fun costs are friends that may not be loyal, but they bring the fun into your life. So this includes things like travel, eating out, the rounds of drinks that you regret buying on that night out. And then the future me costs are the friends that lift you up and support you in the long run. This includes the savings, your retirement contributions, and your investments. And that's where I'd like to introduce the sponsor of today's video, which is Trading 212. It lets you invest in stocks, index funds, ETFs, and user-made portfolios. And I've been using them for over 5 years to manage a portion of my portfolio. They recently added multi-currency accounts. So if you're invested in this US stock market, for instance, which is where a large number of the biggest companies are, you don't then have to pay huge foreign exchange fees. And now you can also earn 5% on your GBP balance, 5.1% on your US dollar balance, and 4.2% on your euro balance, and more currencies paid daily. So whether it's my savings or my investments, I know I'm getting a return on it. If you want to check out Trading 212 and get a free share worth up to £100, you can do so using my link below. Verify your account and deposit £1. Remember to use the code Nischa, Nischa. At this point, I have a quick lunch break. White cloth, glass plates, metal cutlery, good food. But as good as this seems, which is why I wolf it down, my consciousness takes over and I make my way to the lower deck to swap seats with my partner and let him enjoy the high life for the second half of the flight. Onto the final step. When it comes to this last stage, this is where you review all of your finances and really analyze where your money is going. You want to think of yourself as the CEO of your finances. So in simple terms, you would look at how much you're making, how much you're spending, and whether your spending is consciously done in a way that brings you happiness or whether you're just doing it mindlessly. Let's start with how much you're making. If you're employed, this probably doesn't come as a surprise to you. You know how much you're making month on month. But if you're self-employed, this can be a real eye-opener. When I was doing it, there were some income streams that I thought I was making a lot more on, and I really wasn't making much at all. And some that I thought I wasn't making anything on, but I was making a decent amount. So this really helped me understand where I'm going to focus on this year. In terms of spending, I first look at it as a very high level approach initially, and then I go into more detail. So on a high level basis, I say, okay, how much of my take home pay am I spending towards each of these categories? How much of my take home pay is going towards my fundamental costs? Recommended guideline for that is 50 to 60%. I look at how much of my take home pay is going towards my fun spending. Recommended guideline for that is 20 to 30%. And then I look at how much is going towards my savings and investment. Recommended guideline is 10 to 20%. I'm trying to get that even higher. I've got a few things that I want to buy in the next year, which I'm coming to in a second. So I'm going to increase that even more this year. Then on the stage, you look through each of these categories and question why you've made the purchases that you've had and whether it's the most cost-effective way to go or not. So again, some of the things that I came across, I was spending a lot of money on Ubers and taxis every month. At first glance, I thought I should cut this back. But then I analyzed it and I thought, I don't own a car. And so when I compared the cost of what owning a car would be versus how much I'm spending on taxis and public transportation, it's actually justified and far more cost effective to go down for myself to go down the taxi route or public transportation route. So for that reason, I don't feel like I need to make any changes here. Another thing I noticed was that my hyperoptic Wi-Fi bill rolled over onto a monthly contract and it went up to £35 and it went up from £35 to £54. So I gave them a call to ask them to go back to the yearly contract, and that 5-minute call saved me £200. When it comes to the fun costs, I look at how much I'm spending in terms of happiness levels and whether I should ditch some of the things I spent on and instead replace it with other spending habits this year. There was some spending that I dismissed when it came to the monthly budgeting because I just thought, oh, it's a one-off. I don't really need to analyze that or reduce it going forward. When you see how much you're spending on things on a yearly basis relative to other costs that you have, you start to rethink some of your choices. Previously, you might have just dismissed it, thought it's a one-off cost on a monthly basis. But when you look at it in perspective with other costs, you might think, okay, actually, I need to change some of these things around and I'm happy to cut back here to spend more on that. Finally, analyzing the future costs. This is about thinking of your finances in a strategic way that aligns with your future. So think about where you want to be in 1 year or in 5 years' time, and are you putting enough towards the future costs to get to that point? So when I was looking at leaving my job and go all in on entrepreneurship, my focus was to make sure I could keep my emergency fund or top up my emergency fund as much as I can. So everything I was saving for the year before that was channeled into making that emergency fund as big as I can. In the next 5 years, I like to buy my forever home. So that is now something I'm focusing on saving towards. You can do this review at any point in the year. You can do it quarterly, you can do it every 6 months, you could do it yearly. But I really do recommend it. It's a complete game changer when you're analyzing your finances. And if you're someone who can't keep up with a monthly budget tracker, you don't need to do it month on month. As long as you've done it one off and you know exactly where your spending has gone from a year, that is good enough. So I hope you enjoy this. If you do try it and analyze your spending over the year, let me know how it goes. Thank you for watching and see you next week.